you eat. You are what you eat.
I sit away from the square lunches at my school because it smells really disgusting and greasy. It makes me sort of woozy. So it was really disgusting.
The kids are buying school lunch, so we don't care if they're buying pizza and french fries, or they don't care, because it brings in revenue and makes up the shortfall that we have in our budget, right? So they're unwilling to change it because they're afraid they're going to lose revenue. But if we just started introducing healthier things and encourage them and have them realize that it actually tastes a lot better than what they've been used to and makes them feel better, makes them think faster, and overall improves their health, then it's not going to be that hard to start making a profit from foods that are so much better for everybody. So I think we can get there. It's just a matter of continuing to educate them.
Well, I'm looking at the curriculum around family and consumer sciences, the cooking classroom, and the health department. They're teaching about addiction, they're teaching about sugar, they're teaching about healthier lifestyles. They're starting to bring in whole foods in the classrooms, in the cooking and the food labs, but then it kind of stops there because then they go to lunch and that food is not there.
That's why you're involved with the Fair Foods effort.
I started teaching in the Westport school system in the continuing education program. It'll be going on 3 years. My very first class, I went around and I asked the kids their name, their age, and what their favorite food was. And by the time I got to the 5th or 6th child, it was sugar. And at first I thought I was hearing things. And I said, well, sugar is an ingredient in foods. It's not something you would just go eat. And they said, no, we just like eating sugar. Now, I don't know if they were pulling my leg, but they seemed real serious about it. And after working with them after one semester, it just was very apparent that they didn't have an awareness about food. And it's not their fault. It's coming from someplace, and I think that place would be home. And then they get that whole system is fortified by the kinds of foods that they're served in the school system. So if you're a 12-year-old and you're not getting nutritious food at home, and then you go to the school and you're not getting it there, and then you have vending machines on top of that, that just sets you up for disaster later on.
Most families are not even eating together anymore, and let alone good food. So just getting people to gather around the table like we used to do in Europe and other places, and almost every culture, you'd meet, you'd eat together, you'd share, you'd celebrate over food, fresh food usually.
Well, the meal I made, Janet, today is essentially what I call it eggplant terrine. It's basically eggplant parmesan. And that's all going to go out there. So you want to be the saucer? The saucier?
Yeah.
So now the beets go with the salad.
You know, I love that this group has kind of spontaneously formed. Janet and I, had kind of the same idea to do a social network, so we just put a bare bones skeleton on Ning. It was pretty easy to put it up, and we're calling it Fair Food for Fairfield County Schools. Do you remember the 4-H club? How many of you are old enough to remember the 4-H club?
Me.
So I love the 4-H club. The 4-H club, will tell you, it was this club where kids could learn about farming and growing food and raising animals. And I think it stood for what does it stand for? Husband, honesty. It was all about civics and all that. And
Oh yeah, civics.
so we thought we'd call this the 4F since it's fair food, fair field. So the 4F doesn't sound good.
That's not going to fly in my store.
Well, no, only as a like, what's the word? A secret nickname.
Oh, okay.
But I think I was thinking about.
It's going to be very task oriented. So it's here's what we need done. We want somebody to host an event. We want somebody to go into the schools and help with this workshop.
We're trying to bring the same program across the district, across the 3 middle schools, in and out of all the elementary schools, to both high schools. So some of the things that we're beginning to format and that we're seeing interest on, we need people to fill in those spots.
Exactly.
So exactly
it's
that kind of
doable.
thing.
It's
Absolutely.
much easier than sitting on a committee with you and going to 5 meetings to discuss, like, we need a healthy green.
Can you tell us more about your vision, where this is going?
Let me back up. It's a government grant, and it was with the Department of Education, but they also give this grant to NIH, National Institute of Health. And there's a lot of money there for, it's called School-Based Initiatives to Prevent Childhood Obesity. I need to get a lot of attention to this issue so that I can get a group of people together who can help me do that. So I decided to make a movie that would be more of an activist piece rather than an academic research piece, even though my goal was to create a media-based training tool for school districts all across the country. Could share that information and create templates so that it doesn't have to get reinvented every time.
Right.
And so that was the big goal. And step one was make a movie, get some attention, which has worked fairly well. So that's
A year and a half, right?
I'll make a movie,
4 years. So
4 years to make the
4
movie.
years, well, 4 years to research it, shoot it, edit it, and then get it out there. And so I'm in year 2 of sort of getting it out there. And so now is the time to start going back to that original idea, which is how do we create this as a template? What I've seen in my travels is I meet so many parents who are like incredibly energetic, incredibly dedicated, working really hard and making change. If there's not, 5 more ready to take their place and fight, nothing happens. And everything falls backwards. So what we really need to do is institutionalize this kind of environment, and it's not just what kids are eating in the cafeteria, it's all across the curriculum and everything else. Administration, teachers, everybody has to be involved. And so that's why I really felt that we have to sort of, just like John F. Kennedy did in the 60s, he said, physical education has to be part of school. And so now when they cut a phys ed budget, people get really angry and really upset, and they do whatever they can to try to save it or get it back in place when there's more funding. But school food isn't looked at that way. School food is, way down there with the bus schedule. And in order to do this grant, got it? And I've spoken to the people at NIH, and they really want us to apply for it. There's a couple of components that have to be in place, and one, of course, is a model to do your testing on. So the before and after piece, how has this impacted kids' choices? How has it impacted their behavior, their health, their learning, their attendance, all those important things. And there have been small studies, but there's never been a kind of big concerted effort. So I thought, well, wouldn't it be great if we could do this in Fairfield County? And we have some great resources because we have Kelly Brownell from Yale. The Fairfield in Schools Coalition came about because I showed the film to Betsy Fink, who some of you may know from Millstone Farm in Wilton. And they have a family foundation as well, and they work with Michelle Michon and Newman Doan, they're part of that group. And she said, well, why can't we just do this in Fairfield County? And I said, well, we could, but it would take so much. There's a model in Santa Barbara County, and they've put millions and millions of dollars into it. They're only in their 2nd year of researching what the school system needs to make change. So I told Betsy, it's like this big, huge thing, and we...
Who made the investment in...
That's the Orphala Foundation. She gave us a challenge grant, essentially. She said, I will give you $7,500 for year 1, $7,500 for year 2, if you can match it in each of those years. And that money is really very specifically earmarked just for planning. Almost a grant to do the planning and the fundraising. So that's what the money that we're trying to raise now is really just to sort of put this down as a formal proposal and say, here's what we need. We're going to have, Amie does this, and Janet does that. You guys are both on the education curriculum side. Then we need people who can work with food service and train them. And we have Daniel.
This is a fundraiser, by the way, today. We're starting today, so Daniel.
I give it to Janet.
We could start today. We could start our fund officially today by each pitching in $10 for this meal.
That's a good idea. Sure.
So that way we're all contributing. So we're the core, we're the fundraising committee. We got today.